This man that I'm about to introduce, how do you start, where do you start? I would stick my neck out and say, well, I met him once before today, and I was immediately bowled over by his charisma and his beautifulness. You'll discover that in a few minutes. So I won't tell you anything else more about him because you're all fans of the club and also you'll be a fan of this individual. So put your hands together for Steve McClaren. There you are, Uncle Steve.
Well,
how are you?
I've never been described as beautifulness.
You are, my friend.
That's a first.
It is the truth. Like I said, when I met you, I wasn't sure what to expect. I expected to be thrown out the building within 2 minutes.
You nearly were.
There you are. But it never happened, and we had a great conversation. I got to know you. I think he's a wonderful person. Now, I thought about questions, and then I realised to myself that I can't read or write. So I didn't do that. And I thought, because we got on so well, I thought, let's freestyle. And also the audience can actually help me put some questions to him. Is that okay? Yeah. But one more thing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was a bit delayed, but I like your style. There'll be a microphone passing around. So if you've got a question, put your hand up at the appropriate time, and we'll put the microphone to you so that everybody else can hear what you're saying, and it's all recorded. Is that okay? Is this microphone on? Thank you very much. Because periodically I will address you like we're friends, and then we will talk, and I'll say something to you, and you will say something back to me. Let's try it. Are you okay? Yes. Thank you very much. Just making sure the mic's working, Steve. Okay, so let's go back in time. You're not from Derby originally, surely? We're not with an accent.
No, you're right, Doug. No, born in York. True Yorkshireman through and through, and been around the country and been around the world, but I'm a Yorkshire lad at heart. But I must say, when I first came to Derby, I've been back 3 times now, a special place in my heart.
So, how did you start your footballing career?
I was very fortunate at school, and you play football and you obviously get scouted, and then you obviously get invited to clubs, and I knew from probably 14 years old that at 16 I would become a football player. An opportunity, albeit at the bottom rung of the ladder, but an opportunity, and I had to move to Hull City to do that, and was there for 7 years. So, despite the education, which was important, and very important to my mother, who didn't quite like my reports, but football was the most important thing in my heart, and I wanted to be a football player. And once I knew 14, 15 I would be doing that, that's all I really focused on.
So when you was a kid growing up, which team did you support?
I was a Leeds fan. I was a big Leeds fan. Yeah, big Leeds fan, and
lots of fans in the audience, as you can see.
Yeah, I used to go watch, a lot of games with my father, and I cried at many games that we lost. Sunderland Cup final '73. It brings back painful memories. But one great story. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work at Manchester United, and I remember we played Leeds United, and as we were coming along, I said, whoa, I used to come here. I said to Sir Alex, I said, I used to come here as a kid. And he said, what, you're a Leeds fan? And I said, yeah, I'm a Leeds fan. He nearly threw me off the coach. And it was unbelievable, because we were going down the street towards Ellen Road, and I've never seen so much, the fans so vicious towards, and I used to think, and he said, you used to stand on the side and do that to us, and now you're on the coach, actually going to play them. So I thought it was a kind of what I call a surreal moment in supporting Leeds, going back there with a great club like Manchester United.
So you're at Derby County. Before you go to Manchester United, you used to play for Derby. What was it like playing for Derby?
Yeah, it was, I think, the old baseball ground, and it was a unique football ground in where it was located, in the size, the close proximity of the field to the fans. You know, and I remember really, and can remember is it was quite a successful time with Arthur Cox. The team was very good, and the stadium was always full. And I just remember them gates. They used to have the fence, the gates, and you could be on the field and you could still touch the gate and the fans. And that's what I remember about the baseball ground. And I remember when with Jim Smith, I mean, playing there was unique. And I can imagine, I think what I imagined was the great European nights that they had there under Brian Clough. And to be there playing was absolutely fantastic, and to come back as a coach. And I always remember when we left the baseball ground, it was kind of a sad moment for everybody, because the history of that place was so different. It could never be taken away, but we had to move. And everybody, and us included, when we were on the staff as coaches in the place, just wondered, moving from the baseball ground, would Derby County lose some of its magic? But fortunately, over the years, it's regained that at Pride Park and now iPro Stadium.
So which one did you prefer, even now, Pride Park or the baseball ground?
It was funny because when we got promotion with Jim Smith, and that first season was at the baseball ground, and I remember thinking, and we were so pleased, because we knew we were going to Pride Park, a new big stadium and a new big field, and we thought in the Premier League, with all these good teams, we're never going to get the ball. And so we thought a year at the baseball ground would be ideal into what we call survival in the first year back. So it turned out quite well. As you know, the baseball ground in July, August, September, it was beautiful. It was like a snooker table, the field. Come October, November, gradually the grass went. Come December, January, it was mud. And we remember the second half of the season from about from December onwards, you know, teams used to come to the base, and we'd kind of won the game already, because they looked at the field and they thought we can't play football on this. So it was a great leveller, what I call a leveller, and an advantage for us and our players. And we had a great home record, which kept us in the Premier League that year. And we were frightened to death moving to then Pride Park, because the Pride Park was a magnificent playing surface, and the pitch was bigger, and we expected all these teams to come, like Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool's, and to play their brand of football, and us for never to get a touch and can't get near the ball. But it didn't quite work out that way. We built up our confidence in the first season at the baseball ground. So in some aspects it was great that we didn't have to leave the baseball ground, and when we did, it was sad. But to move to a new modern stadium has been the making of Derby, I think.
And which do you prefer in terms of title, manager or coach?
Yeah, well, we've had quite a few debates about this going along, and whether you work in business or whether you're a teacher, whether you work just ordinary work, or what's your title? You know? And a lot of people place a lot of emphasis on titles, and I chuckle now. I didn't when I first started, because titles were very important when I first started, but through experience and being quite an old bugger now, titles are not so important. It's the role you actually play. So the role is more important to me than the title. So, you know, I've been manager, I've been abroad and been head coach. I've been head coach and technical director. That sounds very nice, but it was just the same role. So everywhere I've been called a few names apart from head coach and manager, and it's the role that you do. And so I've always tried to emphasise that now to any of the young coaches coming through or other people coming through, and they're a little bit bothered about their title, and they want to be more important with the title. And I used to be like that, and I said, no, don't worry about the title. It's the role that you play, and that's always been key to me, the role that I play, and that's always been about building teams, building individuals, making teams better, making individuals better. And basically what I've come to at the end of the day is I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. And many people put different titles on it, but basically I help people, or try to improve as football players and as people. That seems to be how my job has evolved.
You're one of the best as well, in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
Now, in terms of high points as a footballer, what would you say has been your high points playing football?
Playing? Playing, I was kind of an average player, Shinners will tell you, kind of an average player. And I couldn't run a lot. I could pass, I could play a little bit, give me time, I could spray the ball about. And
that's not average.
No, and I was fortunate when I look back. I wanted to play in the first division of Premier. Didn't quite make it and play enough games. But when I look back and when I look now, I feel privileged and honoured to have actually played professional football at some kind of level. And kind of promotions were always the highlight. But I think the key thing for me in football was being at a club that didn't quite necessarily have to be successful. If it was successful, it was better. But the camaraderie from football was the main thing. Was when you look at different things about winning games and things like that. It was actually the camaraderie and the togetherness. When you had that, it was kind of a chemistry in a dressing room. And we've kind of got a little bit going now at Derby County when I look at the dressing room. And being a part of a dressing room that has that synergy, has that chemistry, has that togetherness, it's indescribable. I don't know how it happens. It's just synergy coming together, energy coming together, and then producing something. When you've got that, that's what makes it rewarding. And I suppose when you look, and I look, you get that in families, you get that if you're a teacher, you get that if you're at work and you work in a department, you get that kind. I think that's the enjoyment. Achieving is always very good, but I think achieving and doing it with other people has been more of a drive and a motivation than achieving individual things.
What about the lowest point as a footballer?
As a footballer, I think when you're injured as a footballer is a disaster. It's funny. It's strange. I finished training today and went into the gymnasium and I was doing a little bit of exercise after training, and nobody was in the gym apart from a player we've got, Jimmy O'Connor, and I was just doing my little stretches, and he's on this bike, and he's just on his own. And he's pumping away on the bike, and sweat's pouring off him, and he's off his seat, and he's really working hard. And I'm thinking, and he's been injured for a long time now, and similar to Sean Barker when I see him working out as well, And I watched him, and I came out of the gym, and I said, "Keep going." I said, "This is what most people don't see. This is the hard part of football," and it's at that time that you look at a player and you go, they've got it, the character, or they haven't. Because to do that kind of work on your own is unique and different. And it's quite special. So being injured is the worst thing a footballer can have, and a serious injury is the worst thing. And I had a bad back. And it was while I was at Derby, and I missed a year. And I remember that once recommended I take the insurance and finish playing. So I was starting to look at the end of that year at other things, running a business or becoming a teacher or something. And I soldiered on really, and found a bit of a cure that kept me playing. I think that was 25, so it kept me playing for another 5 or 6 years. I battled on, but injury is the biggest killer in a footballer.
So, when did you know as a footballer that you've got what it takes to be a manager or a coach?
It was strange because I was injured. Again, I was injured. I'd done my medial, I had an operation, was on crutches. I was 31. I was at Oxford. And while I was rehabbing, there was a lot of changes at the club. Manager went, new manager, the assistant went. So the reserve youth coach went up to be assistant. And so there was a vacancy. And the manager said, look, while you're rehabbing, do you want to go and take the youth team and the reserve team on crutches? So I said, well, I'll give it a go. I hadn't really thought about it. I'd done some coaching matches, but not really thought you'd play forever when you're playing. You think you do, you think you're invincible, but comes a time, and this time came, and I was on it, and I remember it. I went to Crystal Palace, and I remember we were in the oldest van. I mean, we were really the oldest van I've ever seen. I've got 15 young boys in the back, and this physio guy is driving the van, and I'm sat next to an old man, and I'm sat huddled in the van, going around the M25 at 7 o'clock in the morning for 11 o'clock kick-off at Crystal Palace, thinking, what am I doing? Playing football is far better than this. So I went and we turned up, and I watched, and we were playing Crystal Palace. And it's amazing how things you never forget. I'll never forget it, I remember. And we had this winger called Chrissy Allen. He was lightning. He was so quick. And he was really, really annoying me in the first half. And I remember just at half time, and I got into the game. First half was great. I got into it, but half time I kind of pulled him to the side and said, look, you've got such great ability, such speed, make the use of it. Just dribble and just keep going. And we need an end product, we need something at the end, and blah, blah, blah. Well, the second half, he picked up the ball halfway line, and he dribbled by everybody, shot top corner, 1-1. And then he got another ball, dribbled down the wing, beat 3 men, crossed it, 2-1. So there was 2 elations. One, the main elation, which was winning, and it's great. and the second was actually thinking, wow, I made a difference to that player, and it worked. And he was back with the biggest smile ever, and the whitest teeth at the end. So he had that, and I thought, wow, so there were 2 great feelings that I had, that we won, and I helped a player. I thought I helped a player, which I did, and I'd got the bug. And it's amazing when you discover. I mean, football was always a passion. But playing football, I tell you, is so much up and down. The coaching and managing is exactly the same. But I felt after that, wow, that was something which I need to do, and I like doing. And I carried on crutches for 6 months and really enjoyed it, and then was really offered to take the reserve youth at Oxford. So I became player coach, which was the best of both worlds. When I got fit, I could play, coach, take 2 teams, and the education that I got was unbelievable, the experience in them early days.
Was it easy?
The key thing for me was, all of a sudden you're the coach of these 2 teams I had. So the youth team, really, I was the coach. And the best thing that I remember going into the office, first day, training, and sat there thinking, okay, I've got the job, I'm a coach. I've got my badges, I've done my badges in the summer, so I was a fully qualified coach. What do I do? And I was fortunate, I had Maurice Evans, who was a manager of Oxford, Reading, famous manager, and he was chief scout at Oxford at the time. And he used to use this little room, cubbyhole I used to call it. It had no windows, it was a cubbyhole, and that was my den. And he used to come and sit with me, and he became my mentor, and he became my mentor, close friend, my advisor, my coach, you know, who coaches the coaches. And I was very lucky that I had someone to coach me while I learned about coaching. So his education, his feedback really helped me in, I think, 3 or 4 years I was at Oxford coaching, really helped me develop my coaching.
And what year are we talking?
Gosh, good question. I think that was about 90. Yeah, that was about, 1991. Yeah, 1991.
So, okay, how did you get from Oxford to Derby? Is that the journey you took?
As a coach?
Yeah.
It was great because at Oxford, there was an old manager, a very famous manager, Jim Smith, who knew Maurice Evans very well. And I always remember we used to play the games, and then the managers and the coaches after the games would come into our cubbyhole. I went with one little cubbyhole, and the next one was the manager's office. So all the other managers and coaches would come into this cubbyhole and share a drink, a glass of wine or whatever. And I always remember I was the youngest, so and it was great because not only did the managers come in, but also other people, other scouts. At the time, I think Brian Horton and then Dennis Smith would invite people in, and Jim Smith always came to our games. So after the game, Jim Smith would always come in for a drink, and I used to be kind of the waiter. So all these managers, other managers, so I was the one who, when people came in, what do you want to drink? And if Jim came in, what do you want to drink? And it was whiskey and ice with a splash of water. I always remember it still to this day. So he came in often over a period of 1 or 2 years, and every time he came in, I got it, Jim, whiskey, ice and a splash of water. And so we didn't converse very much, it was just we knew each other because of whiskey, ice and a splash of water. So we got to know each other, and I know Maurice and Jim kind of got on. And Jim got the job here at Derby. And somehow I got the call, and Maurice kind of told me, you know, and I just put it down to serving Jim whiskey, ice and a splash of water for 1.5, 2 years. And so he invited me to come as assistant, which was a great breakthrough for me, and I progressed from whiskey, ice and a splash of water to becoming a red wine connoisseur.
So okay, let's fast forward to 1999, and you get the call, I imagine, from Sir Alex Ferguson to go to Manchester United. Is that the right year? And what was it like? Were you agonising?
It was strange because I remember I went to a dinner, some journalists, about 4 or 5 weeks, and Brian Kidd had left and gone to Blackburn, and Manchester United was searching for a coach, and there was lots of names being bandied about, and there was a lot of famous names. And I remember this journalist, and I'm sort of very close to this journalist to this day. He's a great old, one of the old style journalists, proper people. And he was at dinner and he said to me, you're going to be the next coach of Manchester United. And I did laugh. I said, very funny. He said, no. He says, and he knew Sir Alex very well. And he said, I know Sir Alex very well. And I know they've been looking at you. And I think, you've come out on top. I said, yeah, ridiculous. Never. And I didn't think anything of it. And then I remember we were actually playing Manchester United on the Tuesday. And I just got back home from a game. And the phone went. and he said, it's Alex Ferguson here. And then I thought this was one of the lads winding me up on the gym and stuff. And I didn't know how to react because I thought I'd seen this on candid camera. thought it was Anton Decker around the corner next. But I thought, so, and I was going to say something, but something just tapped me and I thought, be respectful. Oh, Mr. Ferguson, yeah, Alec, you want to come to Manchester United? I said, of course I do. And he said, great. He said, Jim doesn't know, and I haven't told him yet. We'll play you on Tuesday. After the game, I'm going to pull Jim and ask him if I can have permission to speak to you and join Manchester United. Yeah, Saturday night. I remember to this day, and I went, wow, yeah, okay, no hesitation. So for Saturday till the Tuesday game, I had to say nothing to Jim. So I was actually at the game, and I'm thinking, who do I want to win? I remember it, I'm sat there going, right, the best thing that can happen is that we play really well, take it to the wire, and Manchester United win 1-0 in the last minute. And everyone praises Derby for the performance, but Manchester United get the 3 points and carry on. So really, I thought that's a win-win for me. And we did. We did. We lost 1-0. Played really well. And we went for a drink, and I knew they'd had the chat, and Jim was never said anything on the coach. We got back at about 2 a.m, back at Pride Park. He pulled me in the office, and he said, right, you probably know. And I said, no what? He said, you're going to Manchester United. And there was no, do you want to go? There was no anything like that. He says, you're going to Manchester United and you're going tomorrow. He wants to speak to you tomorrow and you're going. And I went, wow, fantastic. It was another surreal moment, I suppose. One of them that it was just strange. And Jim kind of, it was great to me. It was like, we were so close. And he just said, you're going. And I really appreciate the way that he put it, and he was so open, and yeah, it worked out.
So what were you doing at Derby County in terms of coaching that made Sir Alex look at you above everybody else and say, I want you?
Really, I really don't know.
Really?
I really don't know, and it's strange because I remember going there and working. I remember the first day, and Monday morning, he invited me to the game on the Saturday, and I said, I'll sit in the stand. He said, no, you won't, son. You get your tracksuit on, you're on the bench. You come and sit down the bench. I was like, oh, can't I have a weekend to get sorted and just have a little breather? He says, no, you're joining us Friday night. You join the team at the hotel. Saturday, we're playing Notts Forest. And you'll love this. It's one of my favourite Derby County stories about Manchester United. But we played Notts Forest and we win 8-1. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, what do I do on Monday? What do I do? So I'm like, I must have come in and meeting all the players and sitting on the bench. I must have been like a rabbit in the headlights. My eyes were just popping, and here I am. Manchester United dressing room, we just beat Notts Forest 8-1 on my first day. Can it get any better than this? It did. But, and Monday morning I'm sat with him, and now I said, okay, knocked on his door, came in. He says, what do you want me to do? He says, what do you mean, what do I want you to do? I says, well, what do you want me to work on? Do you want me to work on anything specific? What have you done? Son, I brought you here to coach. Now go out there and coach. And I went, yeah, but son, you're here to coach. Son, what did you do at Derby County? He said, whatever you did at Derby County is good enough for you. Go and do that. And that was probably the last conversation we had about coaching. And I can't remember he even ever going, oh, that was great, that was good, that was well done. And it's strange because I just had 3 months earlier on in the year with Harry Redknapp, and Harry was great, and Harry would, oh, I like that session, son. Well, I like that. Oh, that was good. Oh, and Sir Alex never said it once. Never said it once. It didn't mean he wasn't great. I just knew that his silence or him saying nothing was good enough, because he always thought if people weren't doing their job, he should let them know. So I thought I must be doing the job if he was keeping quiet. So that's kind of, you know, no feedback, just go and do the job. And I think that's, people often ask me about what it was like working there and what did you learn. And the biggest thing I learned was trust. He trusted me. He plucked me from nowhere, took me to Manchester United. Nobody knew who the hell I was. Even the chairman called me Steve McClaren at the press conference, and I thought, Steve McClaren, can't pronounce my name right, and there it goes to the nation. Steve McClaren is the new assistant manager of Manchester United, and I'm like, that gone, Steve McClaren. I'm nearly in tears. But you know, that's what it was. He brought you in, and he said, I brought you here to do a job. Go and do the job. So I suppose, you know, when players did things wrong, physios did things wrong, he would tell them, and I was very lucky. He didn't tell me much in the 3 years I was with him.
So what was it like working with the players? I mean, did they immediately respect you at Manchester United?
Look, you know, you don't, Shinners will know, flipping out footballers test you. They test you, and it's like a jungle, you know. They'll and it was you know, people say it was the hardest 5 months of my life, and I used to stay up till about 2 o'clock, and I used to be so organised for training the next day, so organised that I would get in and as a coach, you use discs and you have to plan things, and so we call it, you know, put your discs out, and sometimes you put your discs out and you go out and it looks like an airfield. It looks as if a plane's landing in the middle of it. And I used to plan meticulously, because if I did anything wrong, if there was a disc out of place, if I didn't make a rule, or if they would try and test everything, if it wasn't right, they would kill me. They really would. So everything had to be spot on, perfect. And I was so nervous, hardly slept, so nervous every day with these big players, and they tested me unbelievable. And
so how did you cope?
I don't know. It was, I don't know. I suppose a bit of Yorkshireman in me, I suppose. A bit of stubbornness in it. But I always remember, I mean, I used to do little things, little games, and I'd always, just to get them going before a game, and one thing we used to do, like a piggy in the middle, all the players on the outside, two in the middle, and you keep the ball from the ones in the middle, and it was a game that they always played. It was a Manchester United tradition. They were called boxes, and they do this before training every day without doubt. If I missed it, they'd go mad to say, no, we want the boxes. So we'd have 2 boxes, old box, young box, and I used to go in the boxes and play. And so if someone gave it away, they had to go in the middle. And I made the fatal mistake on the first day of being the one who was the referee to say who would go in the middle. Well, no one took responsibility. And I'd say, Roy Keane, Roy, that was a bad ball, you're in the middle. And he'd say, no, it wasn't. And I'd say, yeah, it was, Roy, it was your fault. So you're in the middle. He says, it wasn't my fault, I'm not going in the middle. So what do? Then my eyes are looking at you and glaring at you. And he's going, it's him. So I'm going, Teddy Sheringham. Roy said, it's you. And Teddy would look, and he was as vicious as everybody else, and he would go, I ain't going in for that, Stevie, you ain't going in for that. And I said, well, someone's got to go in. And they go, yeah, why don't you go in? And I thought, and I did, honestly, I never slept at night. Because, honestly, Shinners will know, footballers, they're horrible people. They're horrible people. And they're really vicious and test you. Especially when you're refereeing, as you know, when you see, we refereed every day, so I refereed every day. And I had to referee this. And then came to me in the middle of the night. I went, right, tomorrow I'm making a new rule. I'm not the referee, they're the referee. So usually the man who gave the ball away went in, and the man who got the ball, he would go out. And I said, right, you make the decision, the man going out. And it's the best thing I ever did. It was the best thing I ever did. And so it was always then. It was everybody was fighting each other then. But at least they weren't fighting me.
Good man.
And I thought that was quite clever. But the other thing was, we used to have little games, and I used to say, we were running around, I'd say, right, get in threes. And whoever wasn't in a three, I'd say, phew, unlucky 10 press-ups. I mean, these are kids, really. These are kids, and you've got to treat them like that. And Dwight York wouldn't do the press-ups. And I said, come on, York, you do the press-ups. And he wouldn't do the press-ups. Come on, do the press-ups. He wouldn't do the press-ups. So what a dilemma. He stood there, and I'm going, and I can see everybody looking at me. You've got to make a decision now. And this coaching mentioned tonight, it wasn't about coaching. It was about this, making decisions like that. And I was thinking, how do I get out of this and keep the respect to the group? And come on, York, you do it. I ain't doing press-ups. I ain't doing it. And he wouldn't move. He wouldn't budge. And I'm going, look, you're spoiling it for everybody now. And I'm getting a bit mad now. Come on, do it. Everything like that. And he wouldn't do it in the end. And he wouldn't do it. And I said, I had a few words and the group, whatever. And so I thought I'd shown enough strength to the group, and as you do, because you have to be all macho in this football world. Done enough strength, and he didn't really do them. You know. Anyway, we carried on, and then Sir Alex came and said, what was happening there? I said, it's him to do the blah, blah, blah. I said, no problem, I'll have a word with him. I had a word with him and didn't play him the next day. Yeah. Wow. And I thought that was a big moment, because, often you do that and then it lingers. But because he backed me, and he actually, the next day, he left him out. He said, you're not playing tomorrow. Yeah, come on, Captain. No. What he says, you do. What he says, you do. Because what he says, I say. And I thought, wow, great. That were the smaller things which makes the man what he is.
So what month did you leave from Derby County to Man United?
Well, it was January, and they were kind of top of the league, and they were kind of, and I was lucky because they didn't lose a game. Listen, I had nothing to do with it at all.
I don't believe that.
Nothing to do with it at all. Honestly, it was the easiest dressing room. It was the easiest place, because everything was in place, everything was in order. All I had to do was keep out the way and don't mess up. And that's basically what I did. And honestly, we never lost a game. And there were many, many memorable games, but we never lost a game. And I think the best thing I did was actually not do nothing, but just keep it going, keep out the way, and just let everything carry on as it was, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You see what I like about you? You're underplaying what you've done, and you're part of the whole equation, because before you got there, they were winning leagues, etc. But when you got there, in that season, they won the treble. That's not just luck or coincidence.
No, that's Shinners will tell you, that's good players, and good squad, and good management, and a little bit of coaching. They honestly didn't need to be coached. All I did was the 8-1, so I concentrated on the one goal and went, right, I'll get you defenders. And I worked a lot with the defenders. And so I hung on to that. The defenders were very good. I couldn't teach the strikers anything. They were just great players, so I'll go and play. But defenders like to be coached a little bit, so I stuck with that. But it was an incredible 5 months, and one that changed my life and flipped it completely.
I mean, when you won the final one, which was the European Cup, wasn't it? That was the final piece of the treble. I can't remember the day, was probably a Wednesday or a Saturday, I can't remember what it was. All I remember was storming out my house, slamming the door, and walking my imaginary dog around the village, because I wasn't a Man United fan. But what was it like being there and being part of that?
I mean, the thing I remember was his little talk, obviously beforehand, and we'd won the 2 trophies, and he kind of said to the group, he said, you know what? He said, I look at people, and he said, you know, many people for the holidays. He says, many people just want to go to Blackpool. And they're happy going to Blackpool. And he says many people want to go abroad, and they'll go to Spain, and they'll still eat fish and chips, and have a pint of Guinness, and they'll want that. He says, I want people who want to go to the moon for the holidays. He says, that's what I want. And he says, so tonight you have an opportunity, boys, to go to the moon. You have an opportunity. And that really struck me, and I went, wow, we just said the right thing at the right moment. And you know, it was nothing about tactics or anything like that. I was no great tactician, just the right words at the right time, the right kind of motivation. And I'll always remember that, and I was, you know, say that is, you know, 90% of people, they're happy being in their own environment. He wanted them to jump completely out of the box, out of everything, and go to the moon. And he says, you have an opportunity tonight to do it, go and do it. And I remember that, and then I remember the game, and we were hopeless in the game. And we were changing left, right and centre and all over the place. And you know, in football, what I've learned, some things you can control and some things you can't. And them uncontrollables often are the decisive moments of games that win or lose you, and you can't control it. And it was as if we weren't in control. It was as if someone else or something else was in control of that game, and we were actually destined to win it. You didn't feel that at the time, but when I look back, and I look back at the game, and I look back at how it finished, that's not normal. That's not normal. And I said, you know, often you have moments in your life where you think, you know what, that is not normal. And that is one where I go, that is just not normal. What happened there was just something really spooky about it. And yeah, but we took advantage and won it. And he changed, and he had that kind of a knack, kind of experience, whatever it was, to change things. And it worked out. It worked out unbelievably that night. Was that your best moment in football as a coach? Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. That was, you know, from obscurity to that 5 months later, going around Manchester on an open top bus, and I've never seen so many people and hanging out of buildings, and I said, right, I think I'll retire now. That's about as good as it gets. What more can we do? So, moving on, because I could talk to you all day, but I know that the audience would like to put some questions there. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So you go from high, then you go to like low with England. How did that feel? The way that the media, the press, kind of like no longer writing lovely stuff about you, but writing negatives. How did it feel? Not pleasant. Highly pressurising. And it was like slowly but surely, probably the walls closing in. You know, that's how it kind of felt. And however much you resist, you couldn't stop the flow and things. You know, you talk about spooky things happening and strange things happening. How did that happen? You know, and you talk about Manchester United and they're good things. And then you talk about, I think, about 3 or 4 things happened, and I thought, that's just not normal, that. It's just not right. You know, just why? You know, it was kind of that bubble in Croatia. You know, what is that? You know, how does that happen? Why does, and then, you know, the everything that about 3 or 4 things which turned it from nearly getting out of this hole to, I'm in this hole deeper now. So that's how it felt. And so at the end it was a real relief. I've got to say, it was like the pressure cooker and all the gas being released, and what a relief. And then obviously it's like a shock and kind of a bereavement, and you go through the relief, anger, reflection, learn the lessons. I'll get back on the bike and move on, and use the experience. And
you did.
I've had ups and but that's football, and it's a risky business, and to do it you have to take risks, and I was never not prepared to take a risk. When I look back, I shouldn't have taken the England job. I was too young, but who's going to turn that down? It's a big risk. I call it high risk, high reward. Low risk, low reward, and I was always a high risk, high reward kind of person. After that, it's made me feel a lot more reflective and a lot more middle. But it was a low, but things are they're sent for a reason, and it's meant for everything. And I think I've had so many opportunities since, by being the ex-England manager, that I probably wouldn't have got if I'd have been the ex-Middlesbrough manager or gone on then to Aston Villa or whatever. So it gave me opportunities in other countries, around the world, that I would never have got if I'd have just been a club manager.
I'm going to ask my 2 more questions, and then I'm going to open it out to the floor. FC Twente, why did you take the job in the first place? And were you surprised by your success there?
It's the only bloody job I could get.
Really?
I think in that summer after, I went for, I think, about two or three jobs, and other people got them, and I thought, whoa, it's not settled yet. So, and this opportunity came up, and I turned it down the first time. I turned it down because I couldn't move the family over, couldn't get schooling, so, and I went back, and still at the end of the summer couldn't, and I said, look, I'm going to have to take this job. It's my way back in, and it's an opportunity, and this is what I do, and I've got something to prove, really. And it was more or less that kind of pride thing, really. God, don't let that get in the way. You make stupid decisions, but I kind of made that decision, and went back to them, is it still open? And yeah, I'll take it. So I took it, and again, that was good and bad, and successful and not. Often with things like that, and especially in football and big jobs and promotion as you go on, you got to make decisions, and the decisions around job, family, travel, things like that. So as you take one thing, and that's an opportunity, another thing always suffers. So, but it was a great experience, and the best thing that I'd probably ever done. Experienced another culture, another country, and I learned so much in Holland because it's such a great footballing nation, and a nation of coaches. Everybody in Holland is a coach, everybody. Fans, media, players, and the coaches are the ones at the bottom who are the actual coaches. But they are quite intelligent and knowledgeable about football. I learned so much there.
Final one. What advice would you give to, say, a young person listening to you speak now who felt that the doors of opportunity were constantly being shut in their face? What advice would you give them?
Keep knocking, and you know what? The biggest thing I say to the team at the present moment is stay in the game. Stay in the game. The game is 95 minutes. And we used to have that at Manchester United. We say we'd never lose at Manchester United. We'd only run out of time. If there'd been another 5 minutes, we'd have won that game. And it was kind of, it goes together with Fergie time, but it really was. we'd always say that, and we'd stay in the game, and his thing, that's why he scored so late so many times, you know, and flipping it, we'd have won that game, boys, but we were a minute short or whatever. So stay in the game, perseverance, and I think someone told me the other day, and it's quite a good one. They have a thing, and it's a guy who's St Peter's who works with cycling now in Liverpool and things, and I've read his book, and he says, just remember, stick right at the front of your head, life is not fair. Says, if you've got that mantra, he says, and you accept that, life is not fair, accept it, it's a lot better, because life's not fair to everybody, and just keep going. So I always say work smart. At the beginning I worked too hard, not smart enough. I'm trying to work smart now as well as hard, and really just build your knowledge, perseverance, keep knocking at the door until that door opens, and if one closes, another one's around the corner. Don't worry about it. It's how quick you get back on the bike and keep going. That's, I suppose, you know, if anything, that's what I would say, and that's what I liked. That's what everybody likes to see in people, you know, and we love to knock people down, and life's not fair. Stop moaning about it, get on with it, and I think that's the key thing. Stop moaning. You know, life's not fair for everybody. Everybody can say that everything in this room, you know, flipping this, flipping that, that's not right, that's not. You're absolutely right, life is not fair. So deal with it. And that's what we always say to the players, we lose, we don't. And we talk a lot about mental toughness. What is mental toughness? And mental toughness is when we get beat 7-0 by Arsenal, and we've got to come in the next day, and we have to play Arsenal again in 3 days in the Cup, and we have to do the work, and we have to prepare the same and prepare for that next game. I call that's mental toughness, because all you want to do is stay in bed, cuddle up, curl up and die, not get out to work and just not bother. But that's mental toughness, and you know that comes from perseverance and accepting that life is not fair, deal with it and just get on with it.
Brilliant. Any questions? Anybody? Jackie? Somebody here? I see one hand.
Hi Steve.
Hello.
Best dog cat team I've seen was under Jim Smith in the Premier League when they had Stanovic, Stimac, one shot. I think we finished with 7th or 8th
Yeah.
in the Premier League.
Yeah.
My question is, where do you think that team would finish in today's Premier League?
You know what? That was a great team. And credit to Jim. And through contacts, through whatever, we'd bring in every way from Strafe to Derby. And where he got them from, I do not know. Costa Rica, one chop. You know, we went to watch him, and there's his big lanky six. I remember a cross came in from 6 inches away from the goal. He missed the ball, missed the goal, missed everything, and everyone's laughing at him. And then the next time, goalkeeper kicks it and he leaps about 12 foot in the air, pulls it down on his chest, knocks the ball out wide, gets into the box, and cross goes in, doesn't do anything. Me and Jim looked at each other and went, wow. Went down at half time and went, we're signing you. You're not leaving until you sign. And he had that knack, and I don't know what it was, and we signed some right good players, you know. I like Stimac, you know, he brought him. Where'd you get him from? So he knew some right people, Jim, some right contacts. And Igor came in, you know, we played centre back, played in a 2, he was hopeless, he was like, and we said we've got to play him in a 3, we played him in 3, that changed everything. And we had Ronnie Williams, and then Asanovic came with Stimac. What a player, they were all talented, very, very talented players. And every year he would bring new players in, and I'd say to him, and I always remember Baiano coming, and he was away, and we had a practice match on Pride Park, and I remember the practice match, we had an 11-11 practice match for about half an hour, just to have a look at it. We put him in the team. The team won 2-0. He scored 2 goals. And I phoned Jim up straight away after the game. He said, how did he do? How did he do? I said, we've just gone to the next level. We found another winner here, Jim. And he was brilliant, wasn't he? Behind one chop and Sturridge and you know, Irani. Where he got these players from, I do not know. But there was such great blend, good chemistry. We treated them well. We were a little crazy, but I think that's what you have to be. And it was a fantastic football team, and it played 3-5-2, which was very unusual then. So, you know, when Jim came, the things, Jim, why are we getting an old man? Why are we getting an old man and a coach who's just 32, 33? It'll never work. And it was because of Jim and his open-mindedness to new things, to development, that we were able to produce that team of great football.
Any more questions? I can't see no hands. Any hands? Is one here? Oh, sorry. Lady at the front.
What's been your highlight of your career so far?
Gosh, I think as a coach, I've got a great photograph of the moment, that final whistle when we beat Crystal Palace 2-1 at Pride at the baseball ground, went up into the Premier League, me and Jim hugging each other. We were always hugging each other. It was the first time. It was the first time we actually hugged each other, and it wasn't cigar stubs all over me, because he would always late at night have a cigar and cuddle me in. So that was a great moment. The treble at Manchester United was unbelievable. You know that. You know, and I remember. I do remember thinking, I'm going to remember this, because a lot of people talk about cup final, and they talked about it when we had Wembley a week before, and they said, you know, the day goes that quick, and you just forget it. Make sure you make the most of it. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And it was great. It was so funny. I was at Wembley and I was taking the warm up, and the assistant and the referee had to throw me off the field because I got one of the substitutes to go in goal, and I had a bag of balls and I was shooting into the Wembley net. I actually thought for a time I was a player, and he couldn't get me off the field. I was keeping the ball up and just enjoying the whole atmosphere, and I thought, I've got to do this at the new camp. And I remember, and everyone went on a lap of honour, and I kind of didn't go on a lap of honour, but what I did was, I remember walking to one end, and the Manchester United, they filled 3/4 of it, so it was like an arc around. And I went to the other goal at that end and looked back and just stood for about 2 minutes and just tried to take the whole scene in, rather than going around with the players and jumping champagne all over you, singing and being stupid. I thought I'd try and be sensible for once in my life and make the most of this moment, and that's what I did. And it's kind of, yeah, sometimes you have pictures of things and sometimes you take pictures mentally. I've got that mentally in my head of that scene, and that was great. But I think the best thing for me was, you know, we won a cup with Middlesbrough, first one for 128 years, and that was kind of, people still come up to the street to me now and say, oh, thank you for that day, and oh, you made me cry, you know, you made an old man cry, and I thought, yeah, and I often wonder what the hell I'm doing this job for, and why I'm in this profession, and why I do what I do. And I suppose it's for people who come up, and I'm actually giving them something in their lives which, you know, they remember. So that's possibly why I do it. I think, apart from my own satisfaction and satisfaction of the players that I'm teaching and developing, we sometimes forget what's the real audience. The real audience is the fans. So doing that with Middlesbrough was a big highlight in Cardiff. But I do think winning a championship in Holland, going through 34 games, I always wanted to do that because I'd seen it at Manchester United and we'd won cups, promotion with Jim, but not won the league. But winning the league in Holland, another country, different culture, an Englishman, the only Englishman in Holland, was for me, if I put that down to, wow, that was tough, but that was rewarding, that was the one.
Beautiful. Oh, another question here.
Hello. What excites me as a Derby County fan is always reading the papers, national papers. Derby's interested in this player, that player, and you've named some great players. Over the last few years, even though Nigel Clough did a good job, most of the players were British players, Scottish players, but I would really like to get excited about Derby County bringing in a young Brazilian kid or a young Dutch kid or somebody like a Wanchop we've never heard of, and he just comes and does business. How's the scouting at the moment? Have you got,
Yeah, funny. Funny. We've been together today and talking about that, and talking about risk and safety and signing players and where do we go on. And my vision when I came is I want to produce a team that was as exciting as when Wanchop, Stimac, Asanovic, Baiano, Iranio, Sturridges and people like that were around. That's what I remember, and that's what I want to produce. So I think what we're building at the moment is a good core, and that's what you need. You need a good heart, good core. And we're building that around British players, and we always had that at Derby with Jim. Always was good, solid English core, or even foreign players who have played in England for many years, a good core. So that's what we're building. And from that, as we go on, we will need more special players, I call them, like you said. So we're looking for that all the time. And I think it's a little different now, and it's harder now, because the world's smaller. Everybody's looking at the same. Whereas I think when we're in Jim's day, you either took that risk or you stayed within, and a lot of people, 90% of managers, stayed within what they know, which is English, British. Now I think everybody has exploded that much with foreign around the world. The world's becoming smaller, that everybody is searching for the same things. In Holland we took players from tribes in Africa. We took them from tribes in Africa and brought them, and if they got injured, they said, I've got to go back to my tribe, to the witch doctor, he will heal me. It was one of them in Holland. So to find players is getting harder and harder, but it's something that we definitely want to exploit in the coming years. But step by step, we want to get there. We don't want to jump too quick. We want to get to the moon, but we've got to build the rocket first.
Good man. I think Carl at the back there. Sorry.
Who's the top 3 players that you work with, and why?
I think number one, or the first one I'll name was Stimac at Derby. People ask me, if there's one player you'd sign now for Derby who could make a difference to this team, I'd say it would be Stimac. He just came in and just had that charisma, that walked in the room and you went, oof, yes, he's got something. And he had that leadership and he had that composure, that nothing fazed him. The bigger the game, the better. And he had great character, and as he came over the other week and we keep in touch, and he's the kind of character that I thought he was the one that really changed Derby County with Jim Smith. The other one, I've worked with many. the hardest player, toughest, most ruthless was Roy Keane, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, many people have, talk about warriors. He was a warrior. He was a winner, and ruthless, assassin. I used to love it when we played Arsenal, and he used to be in the tunnel with Vieira. It's a great programme actually. Keane and Vieira, they do one together. It's a great little insight, isn't it? It's great. I mean, it's a bit for media. I pulled his leg about it. He said it's media, isn't it? But he was a warrior. You want to go to war with anybody? You want anybody at the side? He was your man, and he was ruthless in that. And such a winner, do anything to win. But also very nice, very intelligent, wicked sense of humour. Kill you with a line. But what a good player. I didn't appreciate how good a player he was until I actually went there. The best, most talented player, I still say, is Paul Scholes. Paul Scholes can do anything with the football that he wants to do. Never amazed me every day. We'd have little things and he would just do unbelievable things. And it doesn't surprise me, other players always talk about Paul Scholes and as their player, the midfield players, he was one of the best. But you know, I've been very, very fortunate, and when I look back and write a book and reflect a little more than I do, I probably appreciate it a lot more.
Man at the front.
Steve, is our academy going to be able to produce the quality of players that we need?
Sorry, say that again.
Is our academy, the one that brings on new footballers from the youth, grows them, English, we were talking about earlier, are they doing the job that the club needs in terms of bringing new skills to the team?
Is that all academies?
Ours.
Ours. I've always said the key thing for me, and the big thing I learned in Holland, was the way they coach the coaches, and we need to do that more. And so it's something that we certainly want to exploit at Derby, and we've started already. Normally I go into a club and I leave the academy to do the academy, and I was lucky at Middlesbrough. We had a fantastic academy, and it was run very well, and it produced a lot of players. And I want to do that again, and this time have a little bit more probably input into coaching the coaches and coaching what philosophy we want. But ultimately, somebody said to me, once, you want to be a good coach? They said, get good players. He says, you want to be a great coach? Get great players. And that is so true. It's about players. It's not about what we do. But yeah, we have to identify the talent. So I think that's the key thing in terms of in academy, all academies, but in ours when I look, is we need to improve our coaches, which we will do, but we need to get good players and eventually get great players, human players. And as I say, the competition is absolutely ridiculous at the present moment. From the big clubs who can take the top talents and take 40 of them and only take on 2 or 3 and discard the rest. But we're in the market and we're improving. We've got the facilities. Recently just going for what we call Cat 1, which is the top level of academy. We're aiming and just doing an audit now over the next 4 or 5 days to achieve that. And that will get us playing and competing against the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United, which our kids need to do, because that will then attract the better kids, and the better kids make us look better coaches.
One more question? Anyone? Oh, sorry.
Alright. I love the saying, the best is yet to come. So whether personally or professionally, what's the next challenge for Steve McClaren?
Next challenge is Derby County in the Premier League. That is why I'm here. That's what I agreed to try and do when I came, was to see Derby County. As a player, I was fortunate enough to, with Arthur Cox, to go 3rd division, 2nd division, 1st division, you know, and Shinner was there at the time, and it was great. You know, when this town rocks, and this town needs something to get excited about, to energise it, and you know, that's the best thing when Jim came and we got promotion and Premier League and 7th, Pride Park, and the town was rocking then. You know, 35,000, bloody Queen opening the stadium, and you know, a picture of Jim and the Queen together. What a sight! The poor Queen must have been covered in cigar stubs. But so you know, I've experienced it twice, and I hope 3rd time lucky. I do it again, and this time as head coach, manager. Who cares, as long as I'm a part of it.
Fantastic. I did say final question, but there was a person here.
If that's okay.
Sure, final one.
Hi Steve. I was wondering what kind of things you'll be working on with the remaining games of the season going into the playoffs, and what Derby's key strengths are. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Alright, sorry. That will give us an advantage over Reading for 2 legs and then a win it, taking us QPR at Wembley.
Well, for the last question, that was 5. Which one do you want me to answer? I tell you, it is something that what will you be working on, what you'll be doing, and you're absolutely right. You know, success is all in preparation. A good job is all in preparation. So we'll be preparing the same as we've always prepared. Someone said it to us the other day when we were talking about, well, do we challenge this team with 5 games to go? Do we really say like this? And he said, what have you been doing for 40 games? And we said, well, we've been doing this, and this. And he says, and why do you want to change? Why do you want to put more pressure on them? Why do you want to look at this and look? Why don't you just do what you've been doing for 40 games? And that's got you where you've got. And I thought, well, what a great point. And I actually, before Blackpool, said that to the team. Look, boys, you know, what we've been doing for 40 games has got us to then 4th. Let's keep doing that. Let's just go out and play. And that's what they did. And that's what happens as you focus towards the end. You kind of tighten up and think, right, we've got to do some things different now because we're coming to the end. When really you don't. You just need to keep doing the same things, the right things. And you know, that's the mental toughness side we talked about at the beginning. So we're hopefully going to keep doing the same things, keeping calm, keeping our feet on the ground and seeing where it takes us, and hopefully it will take us all the way.
Can I just quickly throw in, I know you said last question, how easy or hard is it to keep your players grounded? Because they're like modern day gladiators, aren't they? How do you rein them in, especially young ones that are coming up and see all the top players, how successful they are and how things can be? How do you keep them grounded?
Well, it's a great point, because everything out there, you know, everything I read about is how to handle, you know, adversity, how to handle defeats, and how to handle the bad times. You know, we've been talking about it. How did you handle this? How do you the bad times and everything? You know, the biggest killer and the biggest one where you trip up is how do you handle success? That is the hardest. That is the hardest, because you get carried away. You get carried away, and you start thinking it's all about you. And then you know, and I call it the disease of me. We call it the disease of me. And you're absolutely right. It's keeping everybody grounded so they don't get the disease of me. And that means that, for instance, a player who's been on a contract for the last 2 years, an ordinary contract, all of a sudden he thinks, I deserve a new contract. Look, we're in the playoffs. I deserve more money because we're in the playoffs. Why do you deserve more money? Because we're in the playoffs. We're giving you a contract. You were happy to sign it then when we were 15th 6 months ago, and now all of a sudden, because we're third, you think you want more rewards. And yeah, absolutely, that's the biggest disease. Once you get that disease in your club, and that's in business, that's in life, that's in everything that you do, if you get carried away, and if you get too uppity and you get too beyond yourself, you know, they're ready to cut you off at the knees. So the biggest thing is keeping, I call it humility, you know, and it just, you know, the biggest thing I said, we beat Nottingham Forest 5-0, and I sat them down and I said, well done, we're ready to win that, it's great. Now the biggest thing we can be now is humble and have humility, and don't go out and don't go gloating and don't go, oh, we're the greatest and all this and that, because we probably might have to play Notts Forest again. Either, you know, might be in the playoffs, might be next season, might be, but you're going to have to play them again, and they'll remember that, and that will be the anger that they need to beat you, and you know, the arrogance. So, you know, I always read these books about, you know, self-help books about in adversity and all, do this and that. I'm going to write one that you stumble more when you have success, and that's the biggest killer, because I call it a disease. At least with adversity, you can, you know, you can see it, and it's mocked, and it's, and you know you've got to fight it, and everyone goes through that because life is not fair. But handling when life is fair and it's all rosy in the garden, that's the hardest thing, I think. And that is very difficult for youngsters. So how they do it, I do not know. So many temptations. I mean, oh, it's unbelievable temptations. Everyone's slapping you on the back, coming out for a drink. And, you know, that's the biggest thing that we said after Forest. Oh my word, it's the emotional high. And going out on a Saturday night, I mean, everybody must have been kissing them. If you're single, every girl must have been wanting to be on your arm. And, you know, how do you resist that? And I'll buy you another drink. And how do you, we're playing on Tuesday. It's the hardest thing. It's a disease, I call it. And as much as possible, we try to keep the disease of me away, including ourselves.
Beautiful. Put your hands together for our guest, Steve Cullen.